The lie took less than 5 seconds to tell, and it felt harmless the moment it left his mouth. He didn't realize that in those 5 seconds, he quietly set his entire life on a path he would one day beg to undo. Ethan Miller was the kind of man people trusted without thinking twice. He was 36, lived in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio, and worked as a project coordinator for a mid-sized construction firm. He wasn't famous, he wasn't rich, he wasn't chasing big dreams anymore. He valued stability, predictability, and being seen as reliable. In his mind, that was success. Every morning followed the same routine. Coffee at 6:40 a.m., blue mug, 1 sugar, no exceptions. A 10-minute drive to work with the radio tuned low to a talk station he barely listened to. He liked the sound of voices more than the words. Silence made him think too much. At home, his wife Laura moved through life with a calm confidence Ethan admired but didn't quite understand. She remembered birthdays, noticed small changes in people's moods, and asked questions that went a little deeper than most. She worked as a speech therapist and had a quiet way of making people feel seen. Their marriage wasn't dramatic. No shouting matches, no scandals. Just a steady rhythm of 2 people sharing space, responsibilities, and unspoken expectations. And that was exactly where Ethan felt safest. Underneath his calm exterior, Ethan carried a quiet fear that he rarely admitted, even to himself. The fear of disappointing people. The fear of being seen as flawed. The fear that one mistake could change how others looked at him. So when pressure appeared, Ethan's instinct wasn't to confront it. It was to smooth it over, to soften the edges, to lie just a little if it meant avoiding discomfort. It had worked before. Small excuses, minor exaggerations, half-truths that felt more like social lubrication than dishonesty. Everyone did it, right? At least, that's what he told himself. The opportunity for the lie arrived on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. His manager, Rick, called him into the office. The door closed softly behind him. "We've got a compliance review coming up," Rick said, flipping through a folder. "There's one certification missing from your file, the updated safety training. You completed that last year, right?" Ethan felt his stomach tighten. He hadn't completed it. He remembered the email reminder, he remembered opening it during lunch, planning to finish it later. Later never came. The deadline passed quietly. No alerts, no follow-ups. In that moment, Ethan saw 2 paths. One involved honesty, admitting the oversight and possibly looking careless. The other involved a simple sentence that would end the conversation immediately. "Yes," Ethan said, "I completed it." Rick nodded. "Great, I'll mark it down." That was it. No alarm bells, no consequences, no visible cracks. Ethan walked back to his desk with his heart pounding, then slowing, then settling. Relief washed over him like warm water. "See?" he thought. "Harmless." That evening, he didn't mention it to Laura. Not because he was hiding something, but because, in his mind, there was nothing to tell. It was just a small lie. 2 months later, the email arrived. Subject: internal audit. Immediate action required. Ethan stared at the screen longer than necessary. He felt a familiar tightening in his chest, but this time it was sharper, more precise. The audit wasn't routine, it was random. By Friday, compliance officers would review certifications, training records, and safety documentation across multiple departments. Any discrepancies would be flagged. Ethan told himself not to panic. He could still complete the training. He searched his inbox. The link had expired. He considered emailing HR, asking for access, explaining the situation. But now the lie had weight. Admitting the truth wouldn't just reveal a missed training, it would expose the fact that he had already claimed to complete it. That night, Ethan barely slept. His thoughts looped endlessly. If I say something now, it'll look worse. If I stay quiet, maybe nothing happens. On Thursday afternoon, Rick stopped by his desk. "Quick thing," he said casually. "Auditors might ask you directly about your certification. Just answer honestly." The word honestly echoed in Ethan's mind long after Rick walked away. Friday came. The auditor was polite, professional, and calm. She asked Ethan to confirm his training completion and provide supporting documentation. Ethan felt sweat form along his spine. This was the moment, the exact second where everything could still change. "I completed it," Ethan said again. That was the turning point. Not the first lie, but the second one. Because this time, it wasn't about avoiding discomfort. It was about protecting a version of himself that no longer existed. The truth has a strange way of surfacing. Not loudly, but thoroughly. By Monday, the auditor had contacted HR. By Wednesday, Ethan was called into another meeting. This time, HR was present. So was Rick. The door closed again, but it felt heavier. They had found the records. The training hadn't been completed. Not last year, not recently. What mattered more wasn't the missed certification. It was the repeated false confirmation. Ethan didn't argue. He didn't defend himself. He simply sat there, listening as trust, something invisible but essential, was quietly withdrawn. The outcome was measured and professional. A formal violation, suspension pending review, mandatory ethics training, a note added to his permanent file. He was allowed to keep his job, but the damage was already done. Rick no longer spoke to him with ease. Conversations became brief, transactional. Colleagues who once asked for Ethan's input now went elsewhere. At home, Laura noticed the change immediately. "You're quieter than usual," she said one evening. "What's going on?" Ethan hesitated. The habit of minimizing rose instinctively to the surface. "Work stuff, nothing major." But Laura didn't push. She rarely did. Weeks passed. The stress didn't fade. It settled. Ethan found himself replaying the lie again and again. The moment, the tone of his voice, the way easily it had come out. He realized something unsettling. The lie wasn't just about the certification. It had become part of how he handled fear. And now, that pattern was visible, to others, and to himself. The breaking point came one night when Laura placed an envelope on the kitchen table. "I got a call today," she said gently, "from a colleague of yours. She was concerned." Ethan felt the room tilt slightly. Laura had always trusted him, not blindly, but deeply. The kind of trust that doesn't question until it has to. "I need you to tell me what's really happening," she said. So he did. He told her about the training, the first lie, the second, the audit, the suspension. Laura listened without interrupting. When he finished, she didn't raise her voice. She didn't accuse him. She just asked one question. "Why didn't you feel like you could tell the truth?" Ethan didn't have an answer way, because the real reason was uncomfortable. He'd lied because being honest meant risking how people saw him, and he valued that image more than integrity. The silence that followed wasn't angry. It was reflective, but it changed something between them. Trust, once shaken, doesn't collapse instantly. It erodes, slowly. Over the next few months, Ethan began to notice how deeply that one small lie had shaped his choices. He avoided responsibility. He avoided difficult conversations. He avoided vulnerability. Not because he was dishonest by nature, but because he was afraid of consequences that honesty might bring. Through mandatory counseling at work, Ethan heard a phrase that stayed with him. Most life-altering mistakes don't come from bad intentions. They come from avoidance. The lie wasn't destructive because it was dramatic. It was destructive because it delayed truth, and delayed truth grows heavier over time. Ethan started practicing something unfamiliar, telling the truth early, even when it made him uncomfortable. He admitted mistakes at work before they were discovered. He spoke openly with Laura about his fears instead of packaging them into silence. The process wasn't heroic. It was awkward, sometimes embarrassing, but it was real. Slowly, trust began to rebuild. Not perfectly, not completely, but honestly. Ethan learned that integrity isn't about never making mistakes. It's about refusing to protect your image at the expense of your character. Because when you choose the lie, even a small one, you don't just mislead others. You mislead yourself about who you are becoming. Ethan still thinks about that Tuesday afternoon. 5 seconds, one sentence, a choice that reshaped his life. And he often wonders, not with regret but with clarity, how many of us are carrying the weight of a small lie, simply because we're afraid of telling the truth? And what would change in your life if you chose honesty today, before the cost grows higher tomorrow?